Here we go.
Do it.
Okay, cool.
Here we go.
Hello, folks. Happy Thanksgiving week. Welcome back to Coffin Talkin', where we unravel the mysteries, embrace the peculiar, and find humor in the unconventional world of funerals and death. Here's Frank.
Hi, Holly. You know, as you say that every time, what runs through my mind is I always think to myself, oh my gosh, we're actually mocking the Grim Reaper. And I don't know if that's a good thing.
No, we have a hit out on us, probably.
A scythe out.
A scythe out.
we have a scythe out on us. Oh my gosh, no. Yeah, but anyway.
It was all a joke. We're talking about you.
We're pumping you up.
Yeah, that's right.
We're here to pump you up. Okay. Anyway, so how was your week, Holly?
It was pretty good.
Was it?
Yeah, it was busy. It's been very busy leading up to Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Because I didn't realize this having an adult job, but with adult jobs, when you take a vacation or when you take breaks, it's not really great because then you come back and you have
double the work.
Yes, at least double the work.
Yep.
And that's a lot of work. So I'm trying to prepare as best I can for that.
It's especially true if you don't have a surrogate that steps into your seat when you're gone.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And most attorneys will have something like that, but jobs for you and I, no.
Not for funeral directors.
No.
Oh my gosh. You've never had Nosferatu step in for you?
No.
What about Dracula?
I have talked to the Grimm for a while, but no, he's not too hip on it either. he's
playing hard to get.
He's very soft-spoken. He just points a lot.
No. He just points.
Whatever.
He doesn't have the ambiance that we want, Kind of scares people away.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm.
Yikes.
That's true.
Yeah, but it was good. Other than that, I do have to tell you the sadness of my heart today. So, well, anyways, here's the story is we are doing a small Friendsgiving at work tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all in charge of bringing something and I'm in charge of carbs. So I made rolls. I made cornbread because someone's bringing chili.
Mm-hmm.
And then I made pumpkin bread. And I made the mistake of baking the pumpkin bread in metal tins.
Mm-hmm.
I sprayed it with Pam and everything. But when I took it out, the bottom of the bread did not come with it. So.
Wait, does Mom know?
Mom knows and is eternally ashamed.
Oh, was it something like, oh, Holly.
Oh, Holly, you're never using my recipe again.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, it was pretty embarrassing, but honestly,
I'll bet it still tastes good. Pumpkin bread is, oh my gosh, it's amazing. The way she makes it, if it's anything, even if it doesn't have a bottom, it's going to be good. Don't even worry about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So people might have questions, but I'm not going to give them any answers.
It's the top of the muffin. Remember the top of the muffin from Seinfeld?
Yes, the muffin top. I'm doing you a favor.
Top of the bread, do you?
Yep. Oh my gosh.
That sounds funny. That's what I thought of when you told the story. Oh, top of the muffin.
Top of the muffin to you.
It's the best part anyway, so Holly.
Are you the one that's dropping off all of these muffin bottoms? We don't want them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's funny. How was your week?
Man, it turned out to be pretty busy actually, and it hasn't ended.
It hasn't ended. It's still busy even today.
Mm-hmm. Yep. As a matter of fact, we were told by one of our children they're coming over to make dinner for us. So I'm just waiting for that. And after dinner, I've got to go. So
that's nice. What are they making?
We're fitting this episode. I don't know. I don't even know if he's coming by himself or he's bringing someone. But between that and this, well, here we go. An episode.
Here we go.
Throwing an episode in there.
Yeah, we can fit it.
Okay, we can do it. Yeah. So anyway, it's been busy. It's been challenging, actually. And I'll tell you something too. This last week, I got, because I've sworn off of pop, I told you that, right? Yeah. Okay. So I was at the store getting some chips, which has now become my big fallback, which is probably worse. But I picked up a Diet Coke for Lisa, the fictitious one, and went on in and brought it home. And she said, I don't understand what you mean by, because we were talking. She said, I don't understand what you meant by one of those episodes. What do I do after I take a drink? And I said, you go, and she goes, I do not. And I said, oh, okay. So we're just sitting there talking and eating. And she reaches over and she grabs her Diet Coke. She opens it. She takes a drink and she's, ah. And I said, there. There it is.
There it is.
And she goes, oh my gosh, I do that.
Oh my gosh. Caught
ya.
Top-handed.
Caught ya. Can't break away now. It's done.
It's done. 1 second. I got to go open the door for Caden. I accidentally locked him out.
Okay. And meanwhile, while she's away, I'm just going to go ahead and start with, one of the more scary activities that took place this past week. And one of them is this. The door opened and shut while I was in my office. I kept looking up and glancing towards the chapel area when suddenly the chapel began to... Oh my gosh, there was a shadow that ran in front of the chapel, and I just thought to myself, what was that?
What the heck? Hey,
did you hear all that, Holly?
Already.
No, this is a new one. This is a new one.
Wait, is it really?
Yes. And so,
oh my gosh, I thought you were joking.
No, I will incorporate that one for another day. But yeah, it is. Yeah, that one actually it made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Because it wasn't just once where I just look up from my computer and you can see the chapel.
Sure.
And it just happened 2 or 3 times. And I just thought, okay, something's going on. And I thought it was a reflection from the outside. Mm-hmm. But I walked over and everything was dark. So there was no light coming from the inside, nothing. It was definitely something.
Oh.
So anyway.
Spooky.
That's it.
All right. Well, that was our Let's Be Frank this week. So we'll see you next week. I'm just kidding.
Did you hear everything that when you walked over to get Caden inside the house?
I heard you talking, but I was not paying attention.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I changed my voice and everything. So, yeah. It's all good. Yeah. Thanks.
Well, what do you think? Should we be frank?
Let's go.
All right. You're already there, so teach us how. I don't know how I feel about that one. Wasn't my best.
Wasn't your worst either, by the way. Okay. So anyway, I want to start addressing a couple of myths that I've been hearing about. And last week, we talked a little bit about the expense of funerals. And I liken that to the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Same as with expense of a funeral. It's what you feel like you can and cannot afford. I mean, and truthfully, just to be honest with the funeral director, as far as your budget is concerned, is probably the best way to go. The second thing, or the myth I want to talk about, is embalming. And is it always, quote unquote, always required by law? Embalming is not required by law. And the only time that the embalming is required by law is when the health department steps in and says, well, if you're going to allow someone to come in and actually view or kiss or hug or whatever, lean into, touch a deceased human body that's outside the family realm, then you need to have the embalming done. If a person is going to be transferred from one state to another via common carrier, chances are the embalming needs to be done. We can also get away with the embalming by placing or packing the individual in dry ice, which would allow that individual to remain extremely cold. So there's no real problem with breakdown of human tissue during that process. But is embalming always required by law? No. The short answer is no.
So question on that. Mm-hmm. So if you're having a viewing where friends of family are going to be there, you have to have an embalming?
So anytime there's an open casket view, I always say to the family, if this is just family, then we'll limit it to 20 people and you can have maybe a half an hour. But if they say, well, we need more time than that, then I will push for the embalming because I don't want to have that problem as far as either odor or individual breaking down as far as tissue is concerned. Because when someone's out for a while, they'll begin to purge or have some little bit of seepage, moisture seepage from their mouth or their nose. And it's just not a good look. It's not a good thing to have. So it becomes a little more disruptive than
not a good look.
Not at all.
Mm-mm. Oh my gosh.
Oh, okay. Here, let me get a tissue for you.
Here.
Oh, that's right. You can't. Oh, that's right. You can't blow. Oh. Oops. That's a little irreverent.
Oops,
shoot.
Sorry.
Sorry.
So I have another question about that. How much do embalmings cost? Or how much do they add to a funeral service?
So they'll add an additional fee of maybe $300 up to $800, maybe $900, depending upon the firm you're using. So it's all basically the same thing.
Or is it like a flat price?
It's a flat rate, and I think it's determined by the funeral home that you're going to use. And really, all fluids are about the same in cost, and so there's really no reason to be, I don't think, charging more than $300, maybe $450 for an embalming. There are different types of embalmings. There are people that are autopsied, where we've talked about this before, where the entire thoracic and abdominal areas are opened up. And so there's a little bit more treatment that has to happen there. They will charge a little bit more because there's a lot more sewing. But other than that, the actual embalming process probably shouldn't be more than $300. I'd say if a person was paying $450, that would be about right for someone that's been autopsied. In my mind, that would be about right. Okay.
One comment for Coffners: if you have additional interest on what actually happens during the embalming, our very first episode, the Witching Hour, goes over embalmings pretty in depth.
Yeah, it does.
But no.
Okay. So now let me go fast forward just a little bit here. And again, and I don't know why it's always the men that we always talk about that have actually passed away. But again, another young woman comes into the facility, and she's got her only one child with her, a daughter, who's very obedient. She just sits in the chair that her mother asked her to and says, just please just wait there, be patient until we're done. Well, in the process of my communicating with this mother, I look behind her, and this daughter is doing some sort of a kind of a weird hand thing in the air. And I didn't quite understand it, but she's just kind of like, you know how you get these little clapping games going on with friends, and you can do clap.
Oh yeah. Lemonade, crunchy ice. Yeah.
Whatever. But sometimes there's another person involved, probably. It's not just you. So anyway, there's clapping games going on between two individuals. And so that's kind of like what she was doing. Either that or she was doing a really good job at practicing her mime movements. So, so anyway, I mentioned to the wife or this lady that was sitting in front of me, I said, look at your daughter. I just kind of real quietly whispered, look at your daughter. And she just turned around and she looks at her and she goes, oh yeah, ever since my husband passed away, she's been doing that. And that was a game that she and he would play together. And so, what had happened was this young man left for work, and he was he worked on construction, and he was working on a high-rise building in downtown where I live. And he had actually left and said goodbye to the daughter, and they did their little hand game before he left, and kissed his wife goodbye. And of course they left, or he left. And so then later that afternoon on the news,
no,
yes, she sees that there was an accident at the complex where he was working. And she just looks at it, and she's just thinking, no one's contacted her. No one.
Oh my God.
And she says that one of the construction workers had been electrocuted and had been pushed or blown, because electricity carries a lot of force and anyway, it had blown him off this
The high rise?
the scaffolding
Oh my
that
God.
he was working on. And then they panned to the guy who was still hanging by his feet
What?
on the scaffolding. And so I only know about this because we had already received him into our care. I didn't know anything about what had just taken place, but she tells me the whole story. And I immediately go to news, and I'm there. Sure enough, there he is. And she
Oh
says,
my
that's
God.
how I found out my husband died.
Could she tell it
And
was him, like when they showed him hanging by his feet?
because his daughter's favorite color was kind of an orange pink. I
Uh-huh.
don't know what the color is. She gave it a name, but
Sunset orange.
could be whatever. But anyway, at the big on his boots, he painted the toes of his boots that color in memory of his daughter. That he always say, "Look, you're always with me," because he'd always point to his boots. I'll always remember you. You're always with me.
Oh.
And so she saw that painting on the boots of her husband now hanging and suspended upside down. And so she said, that's how I found out he had passed away. Well, she came in and she wanted, it's terrible, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she came in and she wanted to go ahead and have just a small little viewing and service. She said, I don't want to make a big deal about it. She decided to make arrangements to have friends and family come to the mortuary maybe an hour before the actual service began, which is what would be common as a viewing, and then to go ahead and to allow other members to come in as they wanted. She wanted to have the casket closed when that first hour was over, have a 20-minute break or half-hour break, as I think was what my paperwork said, and then everyone else would come in, but they would come into a closed casket. Now, he looked great. I don't know why she wanted the casket closed. She just didn't want people to gawk at him, I guess.
Yeah.
And when we closed the casket, this little girl, his daughter, I walked out of the chapel and I was wondering where she was because the mother asked once again, have you seen my daughter? And I said, well, no, but the last time I saw her, she asked where the restroom was. And so let me just go see if she's still in the restroom.
Don't tell me she's going to be in the restroom saying a prayer for the lights to come on.
I don't know how I can get through stories like comments like that, Holly.
You know what? I'm done. I'm done. You're not going to respect it. Fine.
Thank you, governors. I'm out. No. And so the bathroom door was open. So I knew that no one was in the bathroom. And so I walked around the corner and we have a series of sofas, love seats, individual seating. And she was in kind of the dark corner and she was looking up at the ceiling. And I just walked over to her and I said, are you okay? Your mom's looking for you. She just did a real fast glance at me and she said, I'm fine. And then looked back up towards the ceiling.
Yeah.
And remember, she's about 6 years old.
Okay.
And I said, okay, I'm going to go tell your mom that I found you and that you're okay. No response. Didn't talk to me at all. Didn't say anything to that statement at all. Walked away and I told this mother that where she was and that she was doing fine. And she said, what is she doing? I said, she's just kind of looking at the ceiling. And she goes, she's okay though, right? She's not bothering anybody. Nope, she's not bothering anyone. So anyway, she was involved. This mother was involved with all these friends and family coming in to meet and greet her and also to offer condolences, waiting for this service to begin.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the service was about to begin when the mother came out, and when she came out, I walked out of the chapel or my office because I could see that she was out, and she said, she called her daughter by her name and she said, it's time to come in. We're getting ready to start the service. And as I walked around the corner, she was still doing this game thing, this hand thing, as though she was playing a hand game with her father. The little mime. And so she reached up and she grabbed her daughter's hand and she said, you can come back when we're done. And so this little girl said, do I have to stay in the whole time? And she said, no, but please just stay in when we begin. And she said something very interesting to me as she walked away, was being pulled by her mother. She looked over her shoulder and she said, Dad, I'll be back. Now, Now, when I heard
did the mom hear it?
I'm sure she did. I mean, whoever was in the area would have heard her say that. And I just thought to myself, Okay. Oh, hold on a minute. Now I'm starting to think, and I look over in that area because I wanted to see if I could see him. And I learned a long time ago that you always listen to what kids say because chances are they're telling you the truth. Whenever you think they may not be, they're probably telling you the truth. And so
Right.
whatever might be happening, that is probably the true statement. So sorry, Coffiners, about the dog in the background. It's our little shorty, but someone must have just arrived. Anyway, so the service had started, and we were in about 15 minutes. And this little girl comes casually walking out of the chapel, and she sits in the same chair, and she makes this comment: "I'm back, Dad. How much time do you have?"
Oh,
And which I thought was kind of an interesting statement because he obviously had to have told her something. Hurry, because I don't have much time. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Something
Yeah.
had to have been said because I don't think a 6-year-old would say that. And
No, that's
so
very weird.
it is weird. Not weird.
Not weird, but
It's
like
uncanny.
it's yeah, a kid wouldn't ask you that.
No.
A kid
And
wouldn't be
so
cognizant of your time
yeah.
unless
And
you said
so
something.
that's correct. And so I'm just sitting there just casually, and in my peripheral, I'm standing next to the wall, and in my peripheral vision, I can see her starting up. She smiles and laughs just a little bit, and then up comes this hand game again.
Mhm.
And she's playing the hand game, and I'm not kidding. Her hands are pressing as though she's pressing on a window, a wall, or something. They are actually stopping where
Oh.
you and I, if you're a really good mime, you can almost see it, but hands will push
Yeah.
through an imaginary line, but hers were
Mhm.
not. They were stopping. And I just thought, oh my gosh, she's really interacting with somebody. And so I just casually walked over there and just sat next to her, paid me no mind whatsoever. I just sat next to her
Yeah.
in another chair, and she was still going and playing her game. And at the end it was very obvious that she was doing it with somebody because the end of the hand game and she was making hand formations and contortions that would only be made if you were gripping the hand of someone else. Do you get
Mm.
it? Are you
Mhm.
getting the visual?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
anyway, it was done, and her hands went down to the side, and I said, who are you playing a game with? And she says, my dad. He came to tell me he's okay. He's happy. He's making me happy. He said, don't be sad because I'm gone. Mom's going to need help. But I'm trying to, and then she said, and all I wanted to do was play the game, the hand game. And
Oh.
so that's why he's allowing me to play that hand game with him right now. So as I said, does he want to play one? He wants to play something else. And she goes, do you have a dry board or what did she call it? A whiteboard and a dry marker? She called it a dry marker. So I just assumed it
Mm.
was a dry erase marker. I said, I don't, but I
Yeah.
have pencil and paper. And she goes, well, it won't be the same, but
It's not as
okay.
fun.
Yeah, exactly. And so I give her the pencil and the paper, and she starts writing, and she says, now hold it. How do you spell that? And she writes whatever's being told her, and she's writing it. And
Oh.
by the time
So
it's
she's not
over,
asking you, she's talking to her dad.
right, or someone.
Mm.
And so she
Yeah,
finally
someone.
finishes and put it on the paper. And she said, he wants me to have you give this to my mom. And I said, oh, okay. And it was folded over. And she looks at me and she goes, he said, it's okay if you read it. And I looked at her and I said, who says it's okay if I read it? My dad. I said, oh, okay. And she goes, and so I opened it and she goes, I love you, mentions the name. Never forget the apple blossom. And I don't know
Hmm.
what that meant. And so after the services, keep that in mind. After the services, I hand to her this note, this mother, this wife, this widow. And she opens it and she just breaks into tears. And she goes, how do you know about the apple blossom? I said, I don't know anything about the apple blossom. Your daughter wrote the note, had asked me to hand it to you. So she goes, and she calls her daughter by her name. She says, who told you about the apple blossom? And she goes, Dad did. And she goes, when did Dad tell you about the apple blossom? Well, you were in there and I was out here. And she goes, wait, and
Oh.
now suddenly she's beginning to believe that her daughter did see her father. So she takes the hand and she goes, show me where dad's at. And she just walked over and she just pointed towards the ceiling. She says, he's right there. He's waving. He's trying to hug you.
Oh.
He's waving. And just like that, she stops and she goes, he's gone. And the mother just broke into tears and looked at that little handwriting from her 6-year-old daughter, realizing that the 6-year-old daughter would not have known anything about the I love you. Please don't forget the apple blossom. And I wanted to ask what the apple blossom was about. The daughter didn't ask what the apple blossom was about, but apparently it had some sort of a major tender effect on her. So I have no doubt that little girl was actually communicating with her father. And so when we think about, I've talked a little bit about this before in the past about doing occasionally, what are they, escape schools for children.
Yeah.
And you always teach the parents, oh, please listen to your child because they're probably telling the truth. And they have that little defense mechanism that we call just a little bit of it's more than a conscience. They can actually read somebody. It's their perception of the well-being or the poor being of an individual as they come into contact with them. They can tell if a person's good or bad. And I said, you just need to be aware of that and keep that in mind and always listen to what your children are saying. And so I think that this mother, she said, I am so, something like, I'm sorry that I didn't believe you, because apparently since his passing, she had been playing this game with him. And it's been in the
really?
house. It's been at the funeral home when they came in to make arrangements. It was the day of the service. And now all of a sudden he's gone. And so think of all the times missed.
Yeah.
That she could have actually been communicating through her daughter to him. If you believe in stuff like this, which I have no reason to doubt that this was actually happening. I saw it. But I just thought to myself, oh, this woman now is feeling probably totally inadequate. In other words, I know she's going to go home and she's probably going to talk to her now, say, do you see dad anywhere? Is he here? Is he
Sure.
and see, now it's going to add additional pressure to her, this little girl, when she could have easily just been having that conversation prior. But anyway, that's today's experience and a little bit of a story, but I found it very interesting. And if with regards to, number one, how she found out and the father's love for his daughter, still wanting to play a game. And sometimes we just think, what's the use of, and I can honestly say, in my mind right now, if I were to pass away, the only thing that I could really say that maybe you kids would say, man, we love to play games. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Something along that line where, yeah, he was always up for a game or something like that. And I have a feeling that that's kind of the same way he was feeling with regards to his daughter. And that she always wanted to, before he left that morning, there was a little hand game that was done. I love you. And then the way he went, but that seems to be the tying factor to that family with regards to him seeing them in the morning and then passing away that afternoon. So
yeah,
I found it very touching and almost, well, it just makes me smile every time I hear of stories like this or be an experience of something like this, because it just reinforces my thought and belief that, hey, we do continue to exist. I had a little bit of a harder time with the idea of the physical contact, because I don't know if that
how
truly
she's
happens that quickly after death, but she was apparently touching something. And so, and I don't know if it was like an energy. I have no idea.
yeah,
So I'm not even going to try and pretend on that scale, but it was interesting to see her reaction, and totally different when she left that chapel. When she was pulled into the chapel, when she came back, she was excited to be staring at that ceiling again. It
yeah.
was the most
Sorry, Dad,
uncanny thing that yeah. Sorry I had to leave to go to your funeral, but here we are again. Here we go, Dad.
but we're back.
And we're back.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, any comments on that at all, Holly?
It was very sweet. That made me cry. I held back the tears, but man, no, it was just very, very cute, very touching. I'm glad that you didn't have a whiteboard and that she got that down on paper, because I'm sure that is one of the wife's most cherished possessions now.
Good. Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought
You'd
about that.
have to give her the dry erase board.
Probably.
You would have had to just let her have
Or
it.
she would be pulling out her camera, taking a picture of it, trying to say, "What this happened," and he didn't know anything about it, but it was handed to me by our daughter. Yeah.
I think that's also so cute that she was asking her dad how to spell things.
Yeah, that's it. The cherry. She didn't know how to spell cherry blossom, and those were the two
Or
words.
apple blossom.
Apple blossom. Yeah, that's correct. Mm-hmm. And so she just didn't know exactly how to spell them. So.
Oh. Yeah, I think that's just so sweet. And what a great, there might be some guilt there, but from the wife for not believing earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I feel like there would be comfort in knowing that it happened. You know?
Yeah.
That even if she wasn't a part of it, that it did happen. He's okay.
Yeah. And he seemed to be happy, apparently. Mm-hmm. I think one of the other things that is interesting to me is, once again, another occurrence occurs where another occurrence happens where you look at a person who is open to the idea of being visited, another person who is so busy and inundated with other things.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Remember, we've had a number of episodes where we've talked about, why didn't they come to me?
Right.
Well, maybe you're too preoccupied with something else.
Yeah.
So they come to the person or the thing that meant not the most, but is probably the most receptive for them.
More open to it. Most open to it.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, that's it.
And I think that's great. I love that story. I don't know that I have any other comments about that one. Just, hi, Scott.
Scott just showed up. Coffiner Scott's here.
I like your shirt. Recording?
We are.
Yeah. Can they hear me?
Can you see it?
Wow. Yeah. Must be nice. I thought the next one was going to be a phone funeral, but I guess not. Jeez. Come home and you're trying to finish quickly before I realize, huh?
Yeah.
No, we'll have Scott's to do here.
Oh, shoot. Oh, look. No, we'll do it as soon as when they get back in town, Scott. We'll do the phone funeral like we did last year with all of us together.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Holly?
All right. No, that puts a nice, pretty bow in that one.
Yeah, I know
Scott.
We're both kind of
just the story in general.
It's just when you said you wanted a sweet one, I just thought, well, this one's kind of a sweet one.
That is sweet.
Yeah,
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for joining us again, Coffners and Frank. And we'll see you next week. And probably Scott will. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to thank Scott for that. But we'll see you next week. We'll probably see Scott next week as well. So be on the lookout for that. And have a great Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, Coffners.
For our United States listeners.
Be state. Be state. Be safe.
Be state.
Be safe in the state you're in. Which hopefully is up and taking nourishment. I love y'all. Bye, Governor.